Hello, beautiful people. I hope all is well. I hope all is well. My name is Alison. I'm a certified dating and relationship coach, and I primarily work with women to help them find and keep the partner that they deserve. So, what are we doing on this here Monday? Normally, you guys see me on Wednesdays. On Wednesdays, I do my world famous live Q&A. But throughout the week, I make an effort to connect with other professionals who are in this space to talk about different elements, maybe perhaps the elements that I don't deal with, especially today, in regards to dating and relationships. So we have a licensed therapist. Her name is Dr. Daryl Johnson, who will be joining us shortly. And we're going to talk about coaching couples. Now, I haven't really blatantly said this. You guys know the tagline that I have, like I primarily work with. Primarily means that there might be somebody who's secondary. Secondary, you might think is couples. I gotta tell you, and Daryl's coming on, I gotta tell you, I'm not a fan of the couple. So that's what we'll be talking about today. What are some of the techniques? What is some of the value that couples get out of coaching? And so Dr. Daryl Johnson is going to join us now, and she's going to give us the inside track on couples coaching. What are the benefits? What's the downside? And then I'll spill my tea as to why I am not a fan and why Daryl is so important to the community, because I ain't doing it. Know who you are and where you are from so that we can welcome you appropriately to the land of love. And if you are single, I am hosting a masterclass on Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern. Click the link in my bio. Hello, may I call you? What would you like me to call you? Should I call you Daryl? Should I call you Dr. Johnson? I want to show all respect.
Daryl is just fine.
My ring is not being kind to me. I need to go onto Amazon and order another one ASAP. Yes. All right. So we are in the building.
Yeah.
Nikki from Pasadena, welcome. I know we have folks that are coming in on both sides. If you are coming in through Dr. Daryl Johnson's page, my name is Alison. I'm a certified dating and relationship coach. And Daryl, please introduce yourself for the folks that are coming in through my side.
Yes, I am Dr. Daryl Johnson. I am a psychologist, a relationship coach, and a relationship therapist.
Excellent, excellent. So we have you, right? Because it's us. We have you on because I really need some insight, some support, some guidance. Talk to us about coaching couples. I can tell you I don't like it. So I want you to tell me about your journey to coaching couples, what you do, what makes it special.
That is so funny that you say that. A lot of people really don't like working with couples, but that's my thing. That has always been my thing. I had to choose obviously through school, we choose a topic that we want to go with. And in the beginning of my PhD program, that's the topic that you choose. That's the topic that you're going to stay with because you're doing research the entire way through. Mm-hmm. And so I knew I wanted to stick with couples, but I really wanted to figure out what's the difference between a couple or two people that get together that really do well, that can cope with the things that life throws at us, and then the couples that, need some more guidance. And I found that based on our attachment style, we can get over or we can cope with different things that happen within our relationship differently. So it's always been my thing. I love working with couples because if you think about it, no matter the relationship, obviously we're talking about romantic relationships here, but we are relational beings. So we operate in the context of relationships, and romantic relationships specifically, they can be the toughest. They can be the ones that will drive us crazy. And so it's really good to have a good handle on what are healthy relationships, what are some relationship skills that I should have, all the good stuff. What are the red flags? What are the green flags? And so I am so glad that you invited me on today. I did not know you did not like working with couples, so I think that is something we need to talk about. But also, this is something really important to talk about. Couple stuff and the mistakes that, we make in relationships that we think are things that we should be doing, or that girlfriends will say, our guy friends will tell us to do, or stuff that we've picked up along the way based on our families, what we saw with our parents, what we see on social media. Instagram and things like that.
Okay, so I'm going to spill the tea early before we get into the real deep stuff, all right? So I'm going to tell you, this is the reason, and I could be absolutely wrong, and please feel free to correct me as you are the expert in this field. I don't like working with couples. And the reason why I don't like working with couples, because in my limited experience of working with couples, what I found is that usually there's one person who's super motivated. They're the ones who usually seeks me out. They're the one who normally books. They're the one who does all of the organizing. And then there's the person who's hesitant, who's coming or attending the session because they feel obligated, because they still love their partner, so they want to please them, or they want to shut them up, or they want to save their family but aren't necessarily prepared to do the work. Like, I always find there's one person who's hesitant. By the way, it's not always the man in a heterosexual relationship, before folks start jumping out the window in the comments, because they like to. But that's what I don't like. Versus working with singles, the one person who booked me is the one person willing to do the work. And even though there's still some pushback on that, and I actually complained to my subscribers yesterday, because there's some people who pay their money and still don't do the work. But at least, relatively speaking, more likely than not, if you're the person who found me and you're the person who registered, like, you put in the effort to apply and to do the call and all that kind of stuff, you tend to want to do the work. That's why I'm not crazy about couples, because I don't want to work with anyone who's not prepared to work. So that's my plight. So you tell me, do I have it wrong? Like, what's the background on that?
You're right. So in my experience, that is very common. There's some other exceptions as well, but for the most part, that is common. It's, one person more willing to do the work than the other, or them just being on two separate pages when it comes to what does work look like, what does help look like. Of course, we have the stigma of getting help, no matter what that looks like. Even just talking about it amongst friends or with a professional of some sort, it's still a touchy subject for a lot of people, especially when the tone of the relationship is kind of like, whatever happens here stays here, and I don't want to tell some stranger my business, judging me, or on your side, or whatever the case is. So you got it right, and also it is difficult working with two people, but I like to keep them out of it. I like to just focus on the relationship, because person A can be just fine on their own. Person B is just fine on their own. But when A and B come together, that's when, you start clashing, or that's when, she's needy, or he's this, or he's too distant, and things like that. And so I like to work with the actual relationship issue. What happens when you two start bumping heads? What happens when, a need isn't met, or a bid isn't met with what you thought it would be? So I like to kind of keep the person out of it, but also focus on what is happening when these two people are together, when things don't really add up to my needs aren't getting met, or, I'm feeling lonely, or whatever the issue is.
Got it. So you are both a coach and a therapist. And so there's a lot of confusion for those who aren't in the mental health space about who does what, and what covers what, and what are the benefits. So since you are both, can you give us the pros and cons of hiring a therapist versus hiring a coach?
I'm glad that you draw that distinction, because there is a very huge distinction. As a licensed therapist, it is, therapy with me would be covered, whether it is covered through your insurance, whether it is individual or couples. For the most part, based on your insurance, it would be covered. Versus coaching with me as an individual or as a couple, in no case will that ever be reimbursed to you or covered through your insurance. Coaching is more straightforward and, to the point. We don't address any mental health issues. We don't or diagnose. However, with therapy, someone should come in or should be diagnosed I don't take insurance personally in my private practice with therapy because it is a lot of red tape. That's the whole reason why I wanted to have a coaching certification, because, anything from you have to be in the same state as your clients, or at least be licensed in that state. So you need to know the state laws and rules governing therapy, what's covered, what's not covered, how much they pay out of pocket. Insurance companies can change their mind at any moment. So they will come back for their money from the therapist, or they will come back if they change their mind about a session being covered or a diagnosis being covered. They will ask the client for hundreds of dollars back. So it's just too finicky, and they make it so difficult. However, you can, submit for reimbursement if your insurance company will reimburse you a percentage. Therapy will require, like I said, a diagnosis of some sort, at least one person. I don't necessarily like to keep my patients in a box, a diagnostic box, because, of course, as we know, mental health in America has been geared toward, and all the science and all the research has been geared toward non-Black subjects. And so I don't really like to do that. However, I do see the importance of outlining symptoms, communicating with other professionals, having the same language. But with coaching, I love how fluid it can be. Of course, it is not just run amok and, do what you want to do, because it's not governed by any kind of, state law or anything like that, or board. But I like how free it feels to be able to work with a client or clients that actually do need the help. And there's no one else having their hand in it. Insurance isn't asking me for my notes or asking for all my clients' business, because it is coaching and I don't accept insurance. So in a nutshell, therapy, we're talking about the past. We're getting in the nitty-gritty of, so how did your mom treat your dad and things like that. Versus coaching, we are very problem and solution oriented.
Yep.
And I love being able to help my clients in a more quicker way, but also just getting to the point.
Yes.
Some people don't find, even singles, not even coming to me for relationship things, but a lot of people don't really find a lot of value in uncovering the past, because either they've done it before in therapy, or they just feel like, hey, I just need a few sessions. I need some guidance. We just need some core, skills, because we're about to get married, or we just hit a speed bump. Let's just get to it.
Understood. Talk to me about some of the unhealthy behaviors or practices that some of your couples exhibit.
They don't listen. They don't listen to one another. A lot of times they will participate in a conversation, but really they are participating in that conversation just to be able to get their point across, right? Or to argue about not necessarily who's right, but just like, listen to me. I picture a lot of my clients, as toddlers. I have a toddler myself, and congratulations on your bundle of joy.
Thank you very much.
My son's 3, and so I literally can picture them in session, just like, they may be sitting there as an adult, but I can picture them as little 2 and 3-year-olds kind of jumping up and down, like, hey, listen to me. I need this. I need that. And just having those, just the basic language without having all the, stigma attached to showing your emotions. I don't want to be too needy, or I don't want to start an argument or make it worse, or whatever it may be. But just using the basic language of just, I need, or me, or, us, future, grieving of some sort, whatever it is. I think the biggest thing with a lot of people is that they participate in conversations, not necessarily listening. Because if we listen, we'll slow down and we won't be thinking about the next thing that we want to say.
Yes.
We'll actually be present in the moment. And I always like to have the difference and explain the difference between responding and reacting. You don't want to react because that's very impulsive. You want to respond. And in order to do that, we have to pause and actually like listen, repeat back what we thought they said, not necessarily fight for my side or, you know, what I think you want to hear, but really just listen and actually check for that. Not necessarily sounding all clinical, but fact checking a little bit. If I heard you correctly, like you actually wanted this and I got that wrong because, you know, X, Y, and Z.
Okay. So on the umbrella, like the larger issue is the lack of listening, right? And then, like you said, listening to react versus listening to respond. So that's like overall, but a little bit more specific or problem driven. What are some of like the problems that people have? Is it cheating? Is it money? Like what's that stuff all about?
As soon as you said that, I was thinking money, because we already come into a relationship with our own stuff, our own baggage. Everyone has baggage. If all of our baggage was just out there, it would look like the airport, right? But a big chunk of that is money. How do we handle finances? What are our attitudes about combining finances, having our own separate ones? Do we combine them once we get married? Do we keep them separate? A lot of people don't like to talk about those things. They like to kind of keep things as they are without actually expressing it or having a direct conversation about it. So, for instance, someone could be together for, 3 years and not necessarily have a conversation about their spending habits or their attitudes about money, their relationship with money, or, what you come into the relationship assuming about money. It's like, well, we've always done this. Let's just kind of keep it up just for the sake of not having to talk about it. Because for a lot of people, money is a very sensitive topic, which understandably so. However, in a relationship, it should be all out there because I need to know how much debt you have. If we're going to get married or if we're going to combine finances in some way, we need to know how we're spending, if we have any goals, what is of value to us before things start to kind of go downhill. And then we look up and the joint account is drained, or, I need to help you out because you spent all your money here, or, oh, I didn't know you had a gambling problem, because we've never really talked about money. We've kept it separate and we just don't talk about anything. So I would say for the most part, a big deal is not talking about money.
Okay. So now when you deal with these very specific issues, the money, the infidelity, whatever it may be, right? As a therapist or as a coach, and maybe your answer might differ depending on the hat that you're wearing. Do you ever say you are wrong? Like you're wilding, you're wrong. Like, is it ever an appropriate time to do so?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. I am real with my clients. No matter if you are a coaching client or you're a therapy client, I'm going to tell you how it is, because there's no need in sugarcoating it. Of course, I'm not going to be a bitch about it, but I'm also going to say, hey, where's the line here? Because I know, this didn't feel right, or you didn't tell them about that big purchase for a reason, or whatever it is. Oh yeah, we checking it in my work.
Now, does that ever cause a conflict? Because what I would imagine is, right, if a couple comes to you and let's say it's the wife, and the wife is spending willy-nilly and all that kind of stuff, and you check her, does that now mean that next week's session is canceled because now this person feels like, oh, you're choosing sides and it's whatever? Like, what does that, again, this is why I don't like the couples, right? I'm not choosing sides. I'm choosing you when I'm working with one person. But when you're working with two, and if you are straightforward that someone has done something that really is out of pocket, and you say that, how does that impact your ability to continue to work with them, or their desire to continue to work with you?
Glad you brought that up, because yes, depending on how and what I say, It depends on our rapport at that point. How well or how long we've been working together, what's the energy and things like that. Because yes, things do happen like that where you may call someone out, even if it's, for the benefit of the relationship, whatever it is. And yeah, next week's session is canceled or they want to find someone else. And the husband's like, oh yeah, no, I like her. Let's stay with her. But the wife's like, yeah, no. I don't like that you did that or something like that. You do have to take care in those situations. However, explaining from the get-go. And a lot of times the people that do work with me, they already have an idea of my style from, one media outlet or word of mouth or whatever it is. So they kind of have an idea of what they're getting themselves into. However, from the get-go, it's just explaining, hey, this conversation or the series of conversations that we're going to have, they will be difficult no matter if it's therapy or coaching. Because you are here, there are things that both of you as a couple will need to sort through, and change in any capacity, it is not easy. And so this will be uncomfortable at moments. It will be difficult, but ultimately it'll be worth it. Because a lot of the things that do come up in therapy or in coaching don't necessarily come up, at least in a healthy way, within the confines of that relationship.
Understood. Do you have a recommendation for couples as to how to choose the right therapist or the right coach? Like, what methodology do you recommend to people on how to choose the right person for them?
Just because a friend may recommend you doesn't necessarily mean that it'll be a good fit. Try the person out, definitely. But what your friend or what a colleague or whoever may like about them, you may not like. That might not be your style, right? So yes, I love word of mouth for anyone that I'm seeing, a professional of some sort, whether it's hair or whatever. I love word of mouth. But I will also do my own research, so I encourage you to do your own research. Google that person, look them up on any professional website, or if they have their own. Look for someone that you feel as though would be a good fit for you. And that could be from any, videos or how they may speak on their website or, Instagram profile or whatever medium they are, that's out there. But really look for someone that has or specializes in what you need. So if it's, couples, or if you're a couple wanting to, have relationship coaching, you wouldn't necessarily see someone that has everything else but couples listed on their profile.
Understood. So this is a recommendation that I've suggested, and you tell me if I'm off and wrong. Okay. So, so this is what I've said. I've suggested that people, with everything that you said, like do the research, listen to their live streams, listen to their podcasts, listen to their YouTube, see if the language that they use is in alignment with your beliefs and your values, right? So that's like the practical good stuff. This is the shallow stuff. I say I highly recommend that you go to a professional who probably is close to you in culture, age, and potentially gender identity. And the reason why I say that is because, in my opinion, I would imagine that someone is close to you in age, culture, and gender identity probably has experienced similar things to you. And so they might be in a better position to have an understanding of where you're coming from than someone who doesn't, right? So Married by Rev Roxy says, I only deal with couples who are engaged or married, not just dating. So, right, so you have to look for the right professional that's in alignment with what you were saying with what that, like their interests. I'm not crazy about couples. So you're a couple, don't holler at me. You might want to holler at Daryl, holler at Rev Roxy, holler at someone who does that. But in terms of I'm just imagining that I would probably best align with a Black woman who is 30s to 40s. And if she potentially has a Caribbean background or is a New Yorker, even better. Right. And not to say that a white woman or a white man or an Asian woman or an Asian man couldn't give me amazing advice, but I just feel like I'll be so much more comfortable, so much faster. Is that outrageous? Is that racist?
No,
Is that
no, not at all. And I let all my people know, no matter what stage we are in our work, hey, because I always check in with them. How do you think things are going? I am human, so I may get something wrong. I may feel off one session, whatever it is. But also, if things aren't working out, or even if they are working out, you do know that you can always, switch. I have tons of references, lined up of dope, other colleagues that I have. And also, you can choose. You can choose. I don't think it's shallow at all, because you're right. A lot of people do feel like that. I want someone, that appears close in age, or, maybe have the same, culture, whatever. That is totally okay. And that's encouraged, because actually a lot of the research that points to, how effective at least therapy can be, it doesn't really, it does not talk about the, qualifications of the therapist. We could have so many acronyms after our name. We could have so many, specialties, all that. But the number one thing that determines how successful a person could be in their therapeutic journey with a particular therapist is the rapport between them. Nothing else. Nothing else. It doesn't matter how specialized the person is or how long they've studied this. It's really their connection, their energy, and their rapport.
So Jazz, the finest ace 1908 asked if you have male colleagues who you'd recommend. So is it okay if she DMs you?
Oh yes, DM me, because that is not a huge, I guess, reference bucket that a lot of people would have. And a lot of people are asking for that, no matter who they're seeking the male therapist for, themselves, if they're female or whatever. It's not a lot of guys that are out there that are either a therapist or a coach, but I have tons of them. Please DM me.
Excellent, excellent. So I have another question, and then I'm going to take questions from the audience. So if there's anyone who has any questions for myself or Daryl in regards to coaching, therapy, couples, or individuals, please go ahead and drop that question in the question queue. It's the question mark that's right at the bottom of your screen. So question for you, Doc. We talked about the red flag, right? Like communication as an overall issue, and then more specifically, many times finances. So that's like the bad stuff. What are the good things? Like, what are the things that you see in your practice and you're like, I'm so happy that these people have developed this particular skill, or they have this capability? What's the good stuff?
Oh, the good stuff. The one thing that stands out to me is their ability to be empathetic and compassionate with one another, no matter how frustrating it is, because being both at the same time is pretty hard. You're frustrated at your partner, but you can also have compassion and empathy for them for whatever the situation at hand is. I think that is a skill that is built up, and it's not an easy thing to do. And also to be able to self-soothe and co-regulate. So, of course, self-soothing is being able to, calm yourself down. But being able to co-regulate is being able to do that with your partner. And so, of course, if the argument or the conflict is about you two, which commonly it is, but also external stressors weigh very heavily. If we're mad at each other, how can I help you calm down? I need help calming down too. Or I shouldn't feel like I'm responsible for that part too. Instead, it is agreed upon. We have like scripts, we have, prior agreements, like, hey, in the event that this happens, this is what we can do. A lot of times people will like leave the room, leave the house, whatever it is, and that could leave the person, in the house feeling like rejected, or like, oh, there she goes, she's leaving again. Oh, she knows how to run, or he's leaving. Instead, it's, we do need that time apart. So this is the agreement. We'll, physically distance ourselves for about 20 minutes, and then, we'll be able to self-soothe. We come back, then we'll be able to talk. So learning skills and being able to develop skills like that, that has made a lot of my work just so fulfilling with my couples, because it's hard.
So my last question for you, I think we have some folks who are nervous, Doc. Like, they don't want to ask any questions. They're scared. It's okay. My last question for you is, before we wrap up, with the popularity of social media, what new problems do you see arising with your couples that may have not existed as significantly 5 years ago, 10 years ago?
Oh, Lord. Social media. So, social media in and of itself cannot break the relationship. It could make it difficult if, again, things aren't talked about, if things aren't understood. Like, oh, I saw some girl, do heart eye emojis under your picture or something like that, or DM'd you, or, all these people on my timeline, they seem so happy, or another one is getting engaged or married or having a baby, or different milestones, and then comparing, and then that presenting an issue in the relationship of feeling pressured or not feeling good enough, or something's wrong with you or your relationship. Social media has definitely presented huge challenges when it comes to relationships these days.
So what's the recommendation? Like, real quick, I hope, let me not say that. That's strong. Like, if I have stock in Instagram, I was going to say, I hope you don't tell them to just get off. But what is the answer?
No, not just get off. I would just recommend, hey, let's talk about it. What are the boundaries and what are the expectations? I never, ever, ever recommend having passwords if there is malintent behind it, right? If I am using your password because I don't trust you, let me check, let me log in because she posted this, and well, no, because that means that there is a lack of trust or trust building. So when we're talking about infidelity is a whole nother monster, because in the repair of infidelity, that would be acceptable. However, it would be on a timeline. So not just get off of social media, but to talk about boundaries and expectations, because having boundaries in your relationship is very important. That is a sign of healthy relationship.
Okay. All right. So I have two people who have decided that they want to pipe up. So let's see what they have here. I think, what's interesting is that if you have like a story that has a response, like it'll get mixed up into your other stuff. So I have to scroll out. All right, I found it. All right. So someone asked, can a relationship be successful after adultery?
Yes. If both parties are willing to do the work. It's not just the person that cheated that has to do the work. It's both. Not to say that it's the other person's fault that the person cheated. However, it is hard not to, continuously punish the person or bring it up, or, it really does take a lot of work, and it does take, baby steps to be able to get back to a place of emotional safety. And something that I never overlook in my treatment with couples is that, hey, the person that did this, it's not that they just need to, just shut up, stay in, and never talk to anyone again, or, they were just so wrong that there's no justification for it. But they have a side to it too. And you definitely want to make sure that this person actually agrees to this, as opposed to it being a knee-jerk reaction. Oh my gosh, let's go to therapy. Let's get some help because I don't want to lose you. When 5 months later, it's like, okay, I should have just went with homegirl because you make me do all this work. And, so it can be healthy. Again, rebuilding trust is difficult, but it can happen.
Understood. So we have someone who says that the stigma around therapy in the Black community makes me hesitant to share with someone that I'm dating. How can I share this information? When do I share this information?
Share information with the person they're dating.
That they're in therapy.
Oh, okay. That has become way more, I guess, normalized or common these days, especially since the pandemic. It's almost like everyone's saying, oh, I'm in therapy, or I have my coach, or my this. And it kind of seems cool. Not to say that that should be your only reason to be able to do that, but you could also kind of fill them out a little bit. Bring up the question in general. There's tons of things happening every day in the news, somewhere in some part of the world. There's something that you could bring up just to kind of gauge, fill the water, because based on their reaction, it may inform you if it's safe enough emotionally to open up about yourself or not at that moment.
Absolutely. All right, folks, we have time for one more question. Please drop your question in the question queue, which is the bubble that's right here with the question mark, because if it's in the comments, it's going to get lost and mixed up, and I'm going to be overwhelmed. I'm not going to be happy. Okay. So if you have a question, go ahead and put it in the question queue, which is the bubble with the question mark at the bottom right-hand corner. We have time for one more question. Joseph says, is it bad that I'm never jealous when I'm in a relationship? Am I supposed to be? He probably gets some pushback from women that says, oh, you don't really like me if you're not behaving in a particular way, right?
Yes. Okay. I am not surprised by that. I think that would take a little bit more digging. Jealousy is a human reaction. Not everyone may feel it. It could be, it could manifest as something else. But I do think that it could be helpful to understand why, or if that even is a problem. It might not be a problem.
Okay. All right, Doc, can you tell us how to find you, how to connect with you? What do you have available to us, especially the free stuff? Folks love the free. So go ahead, talk to us.
Yes, follow me on IG at Dr. Daryl Johnson. My website is drdaryljohnson.com. I have tons of knowledge there. I also have my book that dropped at the beginning of the year. It is Love and Other Stuff, the No Bullshit Guide to Relationships When Love Isn't Enough. And yes, check me out.
Lovely, lovely. All right, so beautiful people, we are going to sign off here. My name is Allison. I'm so thankful that we had Dr. Johnson on with us to give us some insight on the good, the bad, and the indifferent with coaching couples. I'm the bad and indifferent part, but nonetheless, I do have a masterclass that will be this Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern. Go ahead and click the link in my bio to register. It is good stuff. And then I also have the free stuff. So make sure you check out the free resources that are available on my website as well. Thank you, Doc. We appreciate you. Have a good night.
Thank you. Bye.